The story is titled The Letters She Left Behind. Eliana Morgan was the kind of woman who left a mark, not because she was the loudest in the room or dressed to turn heads, but because she had a quiet elegance about her, a warmth that wrapped itself around you and stayed long after she left. For Aiden Blake, she was the silence in a noisy world, the stillness he didn't know he needed. They met at the town's bookstore, one of those places that felt like it belonged to a different era, tucked between a coffee shop and a thrift store. Eliana had dropped a book and Aden had picked it up. A simple moment, but that's where the most great love stories begin, in the mundane. You remember that first conversation like it was carved into his bones. Do you always read poetry on a Tuesday afternoon? He had asked. Curious, she smiled softly. Only when I need to feel something again. And from that moment, he couldn't stop wanting to be the person who made her feel something. Something real. Their love unfolded like autumn, slow, vivid, and unforgettable. Aden started timing his bookstore visits to match hers. They would read together, laugh over mismatched coffee orders, and walk through the park where Elena would always stop to watch the dogs. This place reminds me of my mother, fingers gripping the strap of her worn leather bag. She used to bring me here before she got sick. Alan never pushed her to share more. He just stood beside her, steady and quiet. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. They celebrated tiny milestones. The first time Aden cooked for her, he burnt the pasta and left her favorite book on his shelf. And this time they watched the stars, and she cried without explaining why. He never asked, he just held her. Life, however, doesn't wait for the sweet moments to finish. It barges in like an uninvited guest. Eliana was diagnosed of a heart condition, chronic and progressive. I don't want you to stay because of pity, she whispered one night, eyes puffy from crying. Then I will stay because I love you, Adam said without hesitation. They tried to outrun time, taking appointments, countless medications, hospital corridors that smelled of bleach and bad as news. Hopeful as it is, love cannot rewrite fate. When Eliana realized her time was running out, she began to write letters, dozens of them, each sealed with wax and her floral perfume. She hid them around the house, under the loose floorboard in the living room, behind his favorite book. Inside the old music box she knew he would eventually open. She never told him about them. Love, in her mind, was best served in memories. Eliana died in her sleep on a rainy Tuesday. Eden was broken, not in the way people write poems about, but in the quiet, disorienting way where nothing feels real. The kind of grief that made the sound of her laughter unbearable and the sight of her handwriting enough to paralyze him. He stayed in the house, refused to change the sheets, and still made two cups one day while trying to fix the cracky floorboard she used to complain about, he found the first letter. Dear Adam, if you're reading this, it means I'm probably gone. Don't close the letter. I need you to hear this. I knew from the moment you handed me that poetry book that you were going to change everything, and you did. Thank you for making me laugh when life didn't give me much a smile about. Thank you for holding me when I broke in pieces, even I didn't know existed. This isn't the end. This is me making sure I stay with you in every way I can. Love always, Eliana. Eden broke down on the floor in the middle of the room. They had danced in one night without music, and then the search began. Every letter was a breadcrumb back to her, a piece of her soul left behind for him. One letter led to the next. Some were full of memories, others one dreams she never got to taste by the sea she hoped they would retire to. Another was a list of the baby names she had liked, just in case, but one, written in shaky handwriting, stood out. Dear Adam, I lied once. I said I wasn't scared, but I was. Not of dying, but of leaving you behind. I feared you would forget how to live without me. Promise me something. Don't build a shrine of my memory. Build a future. Love again. Let someone find you the way I did. Don't close your heart in my name. Open it because of me. Please let me go when you're ready. Not because you stopped loving me, but because you finally understood that love doesn't die, it changes form. Yours always, Eliana. It took Aiden 3 years to fulfill her last wish. He traveled, started a foundation in her name to support heart patients, and went back to school. He wrote a book not about Eliana's death, but about how she taught him to live. People told him it was healing, but it never felt like healing. It felt like honoring. To the same bookstore one spring morning where they had met. He met someone new. Her name was Lily. Lily wasn't Eliana. She didn't have to be. She was sunlight in a new way, laughter in the cracks of his healing heart, and slowly, gently, Adam began to fall again. He still kept Eleanor's letter in a box, untouched but never forgotten. On the day he proposed to Lily, he visited Eleanor's grave. I kept my promise, he whispered, kneeling down, but you will always be part of every chapter. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of blooming lilies. He smiled because that had been her favorite flower. Love. He realized this is not about holding on, it's about carrying forward, and that's what Elena had always wanted.